when I saw some kids at Berkeley and other schools getting up and saying, and the Fed. Well, liberty is not dead at all. I think it just gets reignited, and I think we're in the early phases of that. But I also believe we have to go through rough, tumbled times because the price always has to be paid. The price in the sense, how do you liquidate the debt? We can't walk away from that debt.
Well, how do we liquidate the debt?
The market will liquidate it. And the way the market liquidates it is what they'll demand is like the person that wants $50 hourly wages.
Yes. You
print money. And every time you print money, the value of the dollar goes down. So the value of the debt goes down. You just a theoretical thing. If you double the money supply and prices go up 50%, it doesn't work that way. But if you do that, the real debt goes down. So it's a theft. It's a tax. It's evil.
So you inflate your way out of it.
Yeah, and that's what will happen. Because what won't happen is the people are going to get together and all of a sudden said, Ron, you need to go back. And yeah, sure. We need to go back and get more people. And, we do have some very good people in Congress, but they're pretty lonely too.
Yes.
And they're very lonely. But I think I tell people, you're not going to get 12, 24, or 100 new members of Congress. The system is so embedded with bankruptcy and corruption that that's not going to work. But I'm still an optimist because I think where it counts, where the people are studying and understanding, and they were ahead of us. I figure they were ahead of me because they said, and the Fed as fiat money, and so they're well along the way, and it's more available now than ever before. This information.
Yes.
So I always figure that if somebody will listen, I'll talk. But like I said, I in a way do this for sort of selfish reason because I want to do it. I get some benefit, emotional and philosophic benefit by doing it, but never as much as I expected. I mean, I always got more than I ever expected because there's more people out there wanting to change their mind. I still get hundreds and hundreds of letters. The neatest story I get are young people writing to me that they've started their own organization, and there's a freedom organization, and they're very creative. And at the end of my speeches, I used to talk about if you're listening and you agree with this, I think you have a higher moral responsibility than somebody that just doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
That you have the responsibility to put it out there, and that I think is a lot of them took me at my word, and they have started their own organization. And I think you can't stop it. An idea whose time has come can't be stopped by armies. Right. And I strongly believe that. So ideas are powerful, and I sort of, I didn't ever want the political career because the goal of it, the thing of it is, if you want to be chairman of the banking committee, you don't bash the Fed.
I've noticed.
At some point, again, in the same time frame that we're talking about, Second World War, thereafter, I think the world fell finally into the grip of the banks. It fell finally into the grip of those unelected, unaccountable, for-profit groups for whom everything was only about money and power. And for them, they became anywheres at that point. They didn't care about, didn't care about Britain, didn't care about America. They just cared about money. And I think that has been I think we lost in that slow motion consequence of the 20th century, or the first half of the 20th century, that all of what had been before, that kind of love of country, that kind of patriotism, that kind of identity, I think that was unmoored, unhitched at that point, and something very large and slow moving just began to drift like a great liner that, was no longer on its safe anchorage, and it's only now that with our kind of 2020 vision of hindsight that we're able to look back and see that happened.
When was the last time Britain had a leader who believed the country was more important than the banks?
Well, you'd probably have to go back to pre-1694 and the establishment of the Bank of England. I mean, that's when the Bank of England was set up, and that became the model for the Fed in 1913, and the creature of Jekyll Island, and I think, but then where do you start? The City of London was established by at the time of William the Conqueror,
Of course.
and is a state within a state. It's like the Vatican. It's a separate entity. People don't fully appreciate the extent to which the City of London is not Britain. It's a separate. It's even got its own police force. The monarch has to seek permission to enter the City of London. There's a nominated person in Parliament, the city remembrancer, who most people don't notice, who's there all the time to make sure that the unique rights of the City of London are maintained and not compromised by any subsequent legislation. So there's been a long period of that. So to get back to a time before the banks had thrall, you'd have to be before the banks were given, the Bank of England was given that magical power to create fiat money.
This whole thing about audit the Fed, that came out of a speech I gave to the University of Michigan, and that was early in the presidential things, and it was the crowd, those college kids, and I worried because I'm going to a liberal campus, I don't know what they'll think of me, and they started saying, end the Fed, and they took out Federal Reserve notes, and they were burning Federal Reserve notes. So I figured, there's somebody's missing the boat, because these kids know a lot more than they're giving credit for. I've changed my mind totally and completely, because there are a lot of bad examples in college. There's a lot of junk going out there.
Yes.
A lot of bad professors. Did you know that?
I've heard that, yes.
A lot of bad professors. So I'm very impressed. Young people have a more open mind, and sometimes with a blanket accusation, which I should be cautious with. I much rather talk to young people who are curious than the people who belong to the Chamber of Commerce.
I agree with you.
Because the Chamber of Commerce people symbolizes the lobby.
Of course they do. And they have economic interests that prevent them from thinking honestly. I had that experience. I was just saying off air at one of your speeches probably 20 years ago. I'd never seen you speak before, and you went off about the Federal Reserve. And I remember thinking, what an esoteric subject. I knew nothing about it. I thought only crazy people cared. But again, I was completely ignorant about monetary policy at the time. And I was shocked by how much the crowd loved it. They were completely tuned in. They thought it was really important. Why would the average person 20 years ago have a better sense of that than, say, me, who was paid to follow the subject but wasn't? How did people know?
I got it from literature. You could read about it. We didn't
Yes.
have an internet. We didn't have the radio or TV giving us good information, but it was out there. For one group that helped me a whole lot was Leonard Reed, the Foundation for Economic Education.
Yes.
I knew him, and he was a true believer. He was a dignified person and very likable. And he talked about process, how you reach people. And but he was very, very libertarian in his own way. But he was sort of an intellectual. And he influenced me a lot. So I read everything he did. And he did a lot of literature. But the follow-up of that was, of course, the Mises Institute. And,
Yes.
and I was part of that. And
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.